Alright, this here is the Eachine Moneagle 5. It's a FPV monitor. It's 800 by 480 resolution, I think. It's got a built-in battery, which is pretty sweet. They claim up to 3 hours runtime, and in my experience that's actually accurate, which is cool. It's powered on here with a power switch. Obviously it's not connecting or detecting anything yet, so I can plug in a drone. It's the Acroby BBL. Alright, there we are, and there comes up the screen. Now, it actually is very visible in the daylight. It's a little tricky to take video of because obviously it's got this shiny screen, which is, I don't know if that's the best choice, but anyway, it is actually a really nice picture, and it is very bright. You can actually turn the brightness up. Let me do that here, see if that makes it any more visible. See, there's full bright. And even in this bright sunlight, it's really visible, which is very cool. It is a nice feature. So why would you want a screen like this? For me specifically, I wanted to be able to share FPV. You know, I'm obsessed, let's face it. And I want to share it with other people. And I found that a lot of people are not keen to put on a set of goggles. And even if they are, then only one person can. So having a screen is really rad. It's also turned out to be incredibly useful on the bench. I use it now all the time. Instead of having to shove goggles on my face every time I make a change to the drone, I can I just have this running and I can see changes as they come along. Also cool for setting up the OSD, etc. I've also found it was really awesome when I went to a race meet with a lot of other people. When you're spectating or you're hanging around between your goes, you know, you can view everybody else. It was useful to help people with debugging their video problems. Right, so flying though, I wouldn't use it for flying. I know some people do. I don't like it. I'm into the immersive experience. I fly because I enjoy the feeling of flying, and I don't think you get that through a screen. But if you are going to do that, then this is probably not the best, because the reception I found is not as good as my goggles. And these are just regular box goggles, Fat Shark Recon V3s, and they don't even have diversity. They have an admittedly pretty good receiver for non-diversity, but nevertheless they were better than this thing that claims to have diversity. You could put on different antennas if you wanted to. Perhaps one patch would help a little bit. But other features, the scan feature, I'll demonstrate that, but that works really well. Obviously for flying one would never use scan feature because you want to be 100% sure you're on the right channel, but since this is just for spectating, be able to scan quickly and pick up the channel is excellent. There's buttons for everything that you would want to do, which is great. There's all the normal bands and channels are supported, and they've got buttons to find them, and then the brightness is easily controllable. And the recording button for the DVR. DVR works great. I mean, it's just a regular old DVR, just like your goggles. I don't use it much, but what it actually is pretty cool for is when you're flying with other people, you can be DVRing your own footage on your goggles and use this DVR to get your mate's video feed as well, and then you can, you know, composite them later or compare each other's times or whatever you want to do, which is cool. And that gets recorded here on this micro SD there. There's an AV port, which I was slightly disappointed to discover is only AV in. So I guess if you are flying with this or you want to use an external receiver for further range, etc., then you can use it for that. I was hoping, although it doesn't say anywhere, so it's not false advertising, but I was hoping that I'd be able to use it as a receiver and put this on my TV, but that's not the case. The input for charging, it's a micro USB, which is cool. And it takes up to a 6S, and they actually give you an adapter with an XT60 connector on it and a USB on the other end, so you can plug that in and use any of your packs really to charge this thing. Definitely do not use that thing to plug 6S into your cell phone. Other than that, I'll just do some demonstrations flying around. You know, would you want to buy this thing? Personally, I think yes, it's awesome. If you not for flying, if you're trying to get into flying and you want something budget, rather go for a budget set of goggles. I mean, these things are great, the nicest box goggles I've used, and they're not that much more expensive than a screen like this. However, if you've already got goggles and you need something to share the experience and also be a useful bench tool, then this thing is spot on, really good. Quality is nice. The build quality of this thing is very nice as well. I like it. you can see that I've added a 3D printed stand and cover. Unfortunately, it didn't come with a cover, and I will try and show a bit more details about those, and I'll share the files if you want. So it definitely does need some sort of cover. If you're just going to be tossing it in your bag, it's going to get scratched up if you don't have a bag or a cover or something for it. And this is a pretty cool, easy solution in my opinion. Just to demonstrate how the cover actually works that I've made. It's literally a print that just clips over like this, and there you are. Nice, and I just tossed in my bag now, and the antennas fall down like that, so they're kind of protected because they can't be bent beyond their limits. And then this is a stand on the back, which you can adjust and set wherever you want to. There we are. Ta-da! So you can find that on my Mini Factory if you want to. So doing a useful comparative range test on these things is not a trivial task, but I'm going to try and give you an idea of what it's like in the real world anyway, because that's what you actually are after. So here I'm comparing this against my Fat Shark Recon V3s, which are non-diversity goggle, and then obviously the screen is diversity. They both just have the stock dipole whip antennas on top. The goggles one is obviously just a single antenna. Now, the one thing to really notice is that how much worse the signal on the screen is in the case in which I've positioned it on top of this metal substation box compared to the goggles. And that's a really great example of how the surrounding environment is going to affect it when the antennas are sitting close to an object, like in this case, the metal box, or, you know, maybe if you're holding it out in the field, your meaty body is absorbing all of the RF. So just keep that in mind when trying to compare them. If you actually look at my flights near the water, the screen was just sitting on the park bench, but unobstructed and nothing metallic around it, etc. And the reception is really just as good as the Fat Shark goggles. So it's difficult, but, you know, take these results with a grain of salt, and I hope they help. Here's a little unexpected extra for the review. The power button stopped working after the 4th or 5th time, so that's a little bit irritating. It wouldn't turn off. So here's what the inside of this thing looks like. Got the battery there, the screen, and the push buttons. Now you can see the push buttons are all just surface mount, and then these little rubber inserts which push against them. And this one, which is the power button, has actually been pushed right off the board. Obviously it wasn't soldered very well, and these inserts don't prevent you from pushing it too hard as well, which is also not ideal. Anyway, should be easy to fix. So there we are, fixed with rather too much solder, but it'll work just fine. So something to watch out for, I guess, but not a big deal.